money is a cause of conflict in many relationships, especially marriages. And the lack of money can cause big problems. But even the abundance of same can also cause problems because uh, people who are married have come from different backgrounds and they have different attitudes towards money. There are those who would like to keep a lot of money, and there are those who like to spend, to show, that they have a lot of money. So different attitudes regarding money can also cause problems. I mean, we all know that marriage is hard, but the issue of money is even more sensitive because nobody wants to be accused as being whether the spendthrifts or being reckless or even careless with money. So it is important that couples do speak about money, preferably before the marriage actually, in order to know how you're going to manage your family resources. I can't really remember whether during our counseling we really had a lot of talk about money, but certainly once you marry, it'll be one of the conversations to have very early in the day so that you know how you manage it. So the purpose of this video really is to offer you some ideas as to how you can manage money in your relationships. It doesn't matter whether you are yet to marry or whether you're already married. Perhaps the ideas that I share can actually help you. Yet I recognize that these ideas may not be applicable to everyone because how I manage my money will be different from how you want to do that in your home. But I hope that it offers some ideas to you. So please use the comment section to let me know how you actually manage money in your relationship or your marriage. And, perhaps I can learn a thing or two from you. But I'm sharing this in the spirit of, Valentine's Day, and hopefully it helps you. So let's dig in. Every couple need at least 4 accounts. 2 individual accounts and then 2 joint accounts. The individual accounts obviously are for you and your partner, and then the 2 joint accounts are where you save collectively. In our case, the first joint account is for our savings. So my wife pays a proportion of her income into that account, and I also pay a proportion of my income into that account. In our case, it's not that much of a big deal because I know some homes there is an argument as to whether they should pay a given amount or it should be a proportion of your salaries. I mean, I'm not going to delve into that argument as to whether each of you should pay the same amount regardless of your income or everybody pays a proportion. In our case, we earn fairly similar amounts, so it really doesn't matter how much you pay, but we pay a fraction of our income into that account. And then it is from that account that we use it for our big projects, whether, our investments or any other thing we want to do. It is from that account. So my wife has the app on her phone and I also have the app on my phone. So we know who has not paid at the end of the month, but it's been pretty, straightforward. Everybody simply pays into that account. The second joint account, I know some people use that for their spending. So they also pay a portion of their income into that account. And from there, they use, to pay their rent, their car, their insurance, and other bills. We don't do that. We simply use that account for, ad hoc activities. Whether we're planning a holiday or something, we use that account for those sort of things. Rather, we use our individual accounts for household expenses. You see, before we married, we actually had this conversation, in fact, a presentation really, as to how everybody manages their money. So I got to understand my wife's spending behavior, and then she got to understood mine also. Because, she has responsibility towards her family and other friends she felt responsible for. Obviously, some were unnecessary, so some of them had to end. But for those essential ones, she could continue. And I think this is a crucial conversation that couples need to have. Unfortunately, Val's Day comes and we are all in a mood and, nobody's thinking about that. But it's important that we have this conversation, particularly because, we also abroad or even back home, we have different, responsibilities. So in my case, for example, my parents are still working and my wife's parents are retired. I wouldn't expect her to, not support them because I don't send money to my family regularly because they are working. You don't want your in-laws to be worse off because their daughter married. You want them to, still, be cared for. So we have that conversation. So I knew my wife's responsibilities and then she got to know mine also. And that is how we manage it. So we had this conversation and it was obvious that, so the question was, how much are you left with at the end of the month? And so it is out of this that she pays a fraction into the savings account. And it is out of mine that I also pay into the savings account. My needs are pretty simple, so, and women needs are also different. But in addition to that, we also asked, how much do you really need, for your own upkeep, for your day-to-day things? We calculated that and say it came to say £200. And then we gave an allowance, of say £100 or £150 in addition to that. So that if my wife wanted to, she saw something in town which was nice, she didn't necessarily have to ask me before doing it. As long as it was within her allowance, she was allowed to do it. She could gift it to anyone she wanted without asking me. Of course, it's only courteous that she asks me about it before she gives it, even if it's coming from her own account, so that, we don't end up giving money to the same person because we are not, discussing or we are not speaking among ourselves. So she would usually let me know what she's doing, but she's not mandated to. And the money is, the allowance is such that if it was going beyond that, for which she needed my help or needed our joint account, then I needed to know about it. So that is what we do. I also have an allowance, a much smaller allowance for obvious reasons, as to what I can do with that. So that is also there. Now, our household expenses comes from our individual accounts because we also needed the account running so that if she wanted to go for a loan, she can go for it. And if I wanted to go for a loan, I could also go for it. So we wanted to maintain our activities so that we can, still maintain our credit scores or even improve it. So that is what we do. So just to, put it all together, we use our individual accounts for household expenses. So my wife pays for the council tax, the internet, and, other basic things in the house. And I pay the rent and pay the, for the car and other expenses. So we know how much each is spending as essentials. And then there's an allowance. My wife also pays for the food in the house. So we know how much we spend on food and all of that. She manages that. So after removing or, after deducting these essentials, she also has an extra allowance for herself, whatever she chooses to use that for. And then other essential bills comes out of that. And then the remaining is saved. But because we've had this conversation, I know how much per month she's supposed to put in the joint savings account. And she knows the same for mine. Because I think this is important because you don't want, to spoil your credit scores because you've been financially tied to each other and one person's bad credit score affecting each other. No, you want each of you to maintain a good credit score and even help the other come up if they don't have a good credit score. And it is by having these direct debits, it is by having these activities that actually help you to build your credit scores. So even the rent comes from me and not, a joint account, so that in the event that we are struggling, we don't spoil both of us our credit scores. It is only one person's credit score that gets bad so that the other person can access a loan and we can support each other. And I think this is working for us, not just as a family, but it makes economic, sense also. Let me know in the comment section, how do you manage, this money business in your relationships or in your marriage? Perhaps I can learn a thing or two. Well, it's Valentine's Day today, and so I wish you, all the best and hope you have a good day. While out there, take care and spread the love. God bless.